I picked the Los Angeles Lakers to make the finals. So I've been watching them pretty closely. I'm also a LeBron fan, if you haven't noticed. So I've watched almost every game, and I have a lot to say about what's going on with the Lakers because it really is really bad considering what the worries were coming into the season and what the worries have become, what the problems have become. And it's crazy because health isn't particularly one of them. They've had some role players miss big amounts of games. Gabe Vincent's going to miss another 2 months or so. He's played just a handful of games for the Lakers. Rui Hachimura has missed some games. Jared Vanderbilt missed about the first month. Cam Reddish has missed some games. D'Lo, I believe, is out tonight. So they've had some health issues, but not anything dire in terms of compared to the rest of the league. The two guys you worried about health-wise were LeBron and AD, and you know what? They have been very, very healthy. Getting MVP production from Anthony Davis, and you're getting elite play from a 39-year-old LeBron. Well, let me address this now. That was a 3 last night against Minnesota Timberwolves. I don't care what the refs say, that is a 3. He takes off from behind the arc. His toe comes over the line a little bit, but he's still, as he's lifting off the floor, his whole foot is behind the 3-point line. It's a 3. And it's not the ruling that it was inconclusive to overturn it that bothers me. It's the fact that that type of play is never, ever called a 2 on the floor. It's never called a 2 on the floor. Anytime there's a close play like that, they call it a 3, they go review it, and if it wasn't a 3, they take the point back. I just find it really weird that referee, while running from behind LeBron, is able to see whether his toe touches the line or not. Call it a 2 after it goes in, and then they go and review it and say it's inconclusive, they can't overturn it. Very, very suspect ruling, honestly. But that's a really big play, especially one when you have all these cameras, the incessant replay reviews that take so long when you're watching the end of games. To do all that and to still get it wrong is really, really bad. It's just a really bad look. And what's worse about it is that the 2-minute report and the refs, they have to double down on it. Because or else they're not going to say afterwards, oh, we made a mistake after you've been criticized all night and then all day again for missing a clear 3-pointer. They're not going to say, oh, we made a mistake afterwards because it's going to make them look bad. Why would they do that? They're just going to double down on it. It was inconclusive. They're not saying it was a 2. They're saying it was inconclusive to overturn. It was called a 2 off of a guess, basically, because there's just no way that referee could have seen that his toe touched the line or hovered above the line as he was taking off, despite the constant screenshots and the constant camera angles showing that LeBron's feet were behind the line. It's just so dumb. It's just ridiculous. And you can't, that costs you games. It's just so bad. But back to the Lakers and what's actually really wrong with them. The problem is that they're getting nothing really on a consistent night basis out of anyone not named Anthony Davis or LeBron James. And I think the first problem, the biggest problem, is Darvin Ham. He's quite literally, I'm not joking, I think he's the worst coach in the NBA. Incompetent roster utilization. I mean, it doesn't make any sense to look at this roster and then be hovering around 500. It doesn't make any sense. Yeah, they've had some guys in and out of the lineup. Yeah, they've had some guys not play well. But if you look at the starting lineup they have running against the Pelicans right now, when you're watching this, game will be over whether they win or lose. But they're running a starting lineup of Rui Hachimura, Taurean Prince, LeBron James, Jared Vanderbilt, Anthony Davis. They're running no guards. What NBA team runs no guards in a starting lineup? I understand the D'Lo and Austin Reeves pairing defensively is a disaster. Their net rating is in the mud. But how do you start no guards? I know LeBron can play point guard. They won a championship with him playing point guard. He's one of the best playmakers of all time, 4th all time in assists, this, and that. I know it all. But to ask a 39-year-old to carry the weight of your offense for 38 minutes a game is a ridiculous ask. You're running LeBron into the ground. That's not sustainable. You have Austin Reeves. He's your 3rd best player. We all agree that he's the 3rd best player on the Lakers. Why do you have him coming off the bench for? There's a report that Darvin Ham and Austin Reeves have legitimate beef. I'm starting to believe it. I didn't think it was legitimate, but I'm starting to believe it. It makes no sense why Austin Reeves is not starting for the Lakers. Darvin Ham's talking about defense. Defense is an issue. But you're playing a quote-unquote defensive lineup, and you're still not playing defense. So what is really the problem? It's not the lineups that's causing your bad defense. It's your coverage. They played the most drop coverage in the NBA. For what? You got Anthony Davis, who I picked to win Defensive Player of the Year. I think he's the leading contender, to be honest. It's hard for him to win it, being the anchor for a defense that's like bottom 10 in the league. So he probably won't win it. Rudy Gobert will probably win it, and that's fine. It's still a long season. Who knows what will change? But I don't think the lineups that Darvin Ham is putting out there is putting these guys in position to succeed. Taurean Prince, in his entire career, has never been a reliable starter. He has started every game this season for the Lakers. What sense does that make? He's a good shooter, cannot play much defense. He's bad at closing out on shooters. He's bad as a chase defender, going over screens, going over under screens. Why are you playing him 35 to 40 minutes a night? That's not what he's built for. That's not who he is. It doesn't make sense. Role players are role players. They have to play a role. It's clear to me that there's no roles here. Darvin Ham is just playing guys to play guys. Feelings, vibes. Cam Reddish was borderline out of the NBA. He was in Atlanta, didn't perform. He went to New York. We gave him a chance at the beginning of last season. He sucked. We benched him. Went to Portland. They started him for a few games. Portland was losing games. They started him for a few games. He ended up on the bench to getting barely any minutes. Why do the Lakers, Darvin Ham, the front office, whoever is in charge of this, whoever's really at the helm of all this, why do they feel the need to try and prove to the league that Cam Reddish is someone you can trust? He's been starting games. The only reason he's not starting tonight is because he's out with an injury. Why is he starting games for the Lakers, who are quote-unquote supposed to be a contender? No contender is starting Cam Reddish. None. Cam Reddish, you know what? He was really good in high school. He has clout just because of that Anthony Edwards video where Anthony Edwards, in high school said that the hardest player he had to guard was Cam Reddish. That's great. But that's 6 years ago we're talking about. Cam Reddish was in high school. Was great at Duke. I think it hurt him playing with R.J. Barrett and Zion Williamson. I think he would have probably done better in college had he gone to a team where he was at least the second best player. Having to play behind Zion and R.J., I think it hurt him a little bit. Turned him really to a spot-up shooter, which he isn't great at now in the NBA. And then, you know what? I give him props for a good defender, being a good defender. That's fantastic. But there's just no reason you're playing Cam Reddish 30 minutes a night. There's just no way. Especially when you have Rui Hachimura on the bench, barely scratching 20 minutes after he was sensational for you in the Western Conference Finals run last season's playoffs. You have Christian Wood getting DNPs, even though every time he plays well. He helps on the rebounding. He can space the floor and shoot. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. I in one of my earlier episodes, by earlier, I mean a couple weeks ago, the last time I talked about the Lakers maybe, LeBron James and Christian Wood at the time had the highest defensive efficiency, defensive rating of any duo in the league. Christian Wood has been so good for them on a minimum contract. There was weeks he was getting DNPs, coach's decision. Why? The Lakers don't play another big outside of AD. You know what that's doing? It's putting a lot on Anthony Davis's plate. And you know what? He's doing really, really well with it. Better than anyone expected. You don't hear no jokes about Anthony Davis right now because he's playing through whatever nicks and injuries he gets. He plays through it, and he is balling. MVP level production from Anthony Davis. They're just not winning enough games. We're finally in a season where, you know what? I think we can clearly say Anthony Davis has been better than LeBron James for the majority of this season, especially the past 3 weeks. LeBron kind of is up and down nowadays, and that's fine given his age. You don't need to expect 28 a night from him. But Anthony Davis needs to be the consistent guy, and he's doing it. The Lakers should be winning games. It just doesn't make sense. And Darvin Ham's taking no accountability. Every time they ask him about it, he's talking about, trying to find stuff. We're 34 games in. You're still trying to figure stuff out. Talks about the health. The health is not that big. Every team is dealing with role players out. All of them. It's one thing if AD's been out games, like a long stretch. It's one thing if LeBron is missing games. That would be hard for them to win without one or the other. But they're both playing back-to-backs, 4 games to 6 nights. They're playing, and they're playing really well. There's no reason why the Lakers are a 500 team. Something is wrong. And it's not the raw. Sure, they do need a backup big, and they do need a guard that plays defense. D'Angelo Russell is now coming off the bench. So it's obvious he's going to get traded because there's no way you're paying him to come off the bench. And he just hasn't had the season I think people expected him to. He had a really good preseason. He's had some really good games here and there, but it's a shame he's not having the type of season that the Lakers needed from him. But for the Lakers, he just gives them nothing. Coaching really matters in the NBA, and I think we've kind of lost that over the past couple seasons. I'm not really sure why. I know Shaquille O'Neal doesn't think coaching matters, which is ironic because he played for one of the best coaches of all time. He's played for Pat Riley as well. But coaching really matters, and you can tell when you watch the Lakers play. See if anything you see makes sense. Like what they're running offensively, they don't run an offense. It's just LeBron, AD, pick and roll. It's up to LeBron and AD to create everything for the Lakers. It's not good offense. It's predictable offense as well. And it hurts that they're not a great shooting team. I think that's been the case the entire LeBron tenure. But that's just a roster construction thing. They bring in shooters, they just don't shoot well. Who knows why? But you look at just the roster utilization, the positions you're putting these players in, there's a reason why they're not performing. And then you see guys leave the Lakers, and they play well elsewhere. Why? Because they're being put in a position to succeed. They're being played to their strengths. The Lakers put guys together and say, all right, do this. Just be out there. That's not how you run a team. That's not, especially not a championship team. I think Darvin Ham was afforded a lot of leeway because they got to the conference finals last season. They started 2-10, made that trade, and they were able to turn the season around. But was that because of Darvin Ham or anything he did? Because when it came down to Western Conference Finals, they were close in every game. But they were not able to make the adjustments to try and stop Jokic and Murray. Maybe there was no way to stop it. But you got to think, coaching matters. There's a reason why coaches get paid a lot of money. Why Eric Spoelstra, despite whatever roster Miami has, he gets the most out of them. They're always a competitive team. They've made 2 NBA Finals with Jimmy Butler as their best player. You know why? Because they got undrafted players who nobody wanted. They get put in positions to succeed, and they play their heart out. Coaching matters. It really does. Darvin Ham has to go. If the Lakers want to contend for a title this season, they're going to have to replace Darvin Ham. That's the first thing they got to do. Will they do it? I don't think so, because Jeannie Buss, they run that organization like a mom and pop shop. They hate to admit they've made mistakes. They don't do it. They had Russell Westbrook for almost 2 seasons when after 2 months you knew it wasn't working. It wasn't working after 2 months. They waited 2 years to trade him. They tanked a whole season, almost all of last season, before they were able to move Russ. And then they finally, they were able to look like a competent team. D'Lo, he was always going to be a trade piece if it didn't work out. They're going to have to trade D'Lo. It's going to happen. Darvin Ham, who comes from Mike Budenholzer, who doesn't have a job right now, even though he won a title with Giannis, because of these same things. They don't make adjustments. They misutilize the roster, especially in high-pressure situations. Ham makes no adjustments. Something ain't working, they don't fix it. Even in the playoffs last year, especially in the West, that's so competitive. You got Minnesota playing out of their minds. Oklahoma City has been so good. Denver, obviously, is still really good, despite whoever they have in and out the lineup. Aaron Gordon's out right now. Jamal Murray has missed games. They've still been really good. Well-coached teams that know their identity. This Laker team has no identity. They have no roles for their role players. They're just running. They're just playing pickup basketball. That's something bad teams do. And they think it's going to be okay just because they have LeBron and AD. That's not the case. Now, the solution, I think they have to fire Darvin Ham. It's a tough pill to swallow. You never want to fire a coach mid-season because it just creates a lot of instability. They got options though. Doc Rivers, you know, I know he's in the broadcast booth now for ESPN, but you know, I think with LeBron, you can mitigate some of the postseason problems you have with Doc Rivers. Dave Yeager, who was really good for the Grizzlies a couple years back, didn't do well with the Kings, but who would have with that roster at the time? Dave Yeager, I think, would be a great option as well. And obviously, Mark Jackson always comes up when a coaching vacancy is up. I'm not sure if he even wants to coach at this point. I don't know what the problem is with Mark Jackson. I hear people say it's his religious views. I'm not sure about that. Why he doesn't get any consideration. He doesn't have a job right now because ESPN let him go. Those are three options just right there. I think that would be monumentally better than Darvin Ham. And then obviously they're going to have to trade for a two-way guard and a backup big. And I know a lot of people are saying that without bringing up any examples. I got some examples. DeJounte Murray obviously is available for trade, reportedly. I think the Lakers have enough assets. They have that 2029 first-round pick that's going to be very valuable. They have D'Lo. They have Gabe Vincent, Rui Hachimura. One of those guys, maybe even a Taurean Prince, one of those guys they could trade, get Murray, and they can also maybe throw in Capella, who's a really big contract. If the Hawks choose to go that route, who knows what they're going to do. They're kind of still a bad team with really no way to get better. Maybe they try to retool the roster. You could do that type of deal. Caruso and Drummond, obviously, with Chicago, I think they're heading into a rebuild. You got a lot of trade rumors with Zach LaVine and DeMar DeRozan. DeMar DeRozan's going to be a free agent anyway at the end of the season. I think that's an option. Caruso, obviously, was very successful with the Lakers in his first tenure there. Drummond played for the Lakers for half a season, one season. I think the way he's playing right now, the problem with Drummond is he wants to start somewhere. I'm not sure if you start Andre Drummond if you try that again, but that's an option. Obviously, Drummond's a great rebounder, can get a block or two. Caruso, one of the best defenders in the league. And I think Dennis Schroeder and Jakob Poeltl from Toronto. Toronto is going to be dealing guys leading up to the deadline. Obviously, they just dealt OG Anunoby. Schroeder, you did just have him on the Lakers, and you know what? I think Lakers took him for granted a little bit. He gives you some stuff that you need, even if he can kind of go off the rails sometimes. The problem is Darvin Ham didn't have him on a leash. He kind of let Dennis Schroeder go off. If you have him on a leash and you kind of keep him reeled in a little bit, Schroeder is a great piece that I think the Lakers could really use. And Jakob Poeltl, big bruiser type of big, can help you in the rebounding, could be a little bit of a rim protector. Because you know what? The Lakers need a rim protector next to Anthony Davis. The Lakers play drop so that Anthony Davis can guard the rim, but also guard the roll at the same time. It doesn't work. It allows people coming off the pick and roll to get downhill and either pull up for a mid-range jumper, free throw line jumper, or get right to the rim. It's not good defense. Teams don't run it this heavily. The Bucks run it a little bit, and you can tell they're not a great defensive team this year either. You need a big behind AD so that he can be free to play defense, block shots, and not give up boards, because they get killed on the offensive boards because AD will go up for a block, or he'll play defense, or have to come out, guard a jump shot. There's no one to guard there's no one to get rebounds. They won a title playing a bruising big against Anthony Davis. You need that again. Get back to that. So those are some options. Having Braun run point with 3-and-D wing guards spacing the floor, you got to get back to that. I think you still need to start Austin Reeves because you need another ball handler. You need someone else who can run the offense and play make and get his own shot. Reeves has struggled at times this season. He had a really bad game against Minnesota last night. But I think overall going forward, if he's going to be your third best player, if you're trusting him to do that, allow him to do it. Don't handicap him, bring him off the bench. This doesn't make sense. Guys, whether you're new or old, be sure to like, share the video, and you can subscribe to the YouTube channel at True Troops for more basketball content.